Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to another week with Fathers Who Care. And bear with me today. It's been a long week, but God is still good and God is still able.
Without question.
And I want to thank all of you all for your phone calls, your letters, your support, your resolutions, and all of your acts of kindness on the transition of my sister. We just funeralized her yesterday. So I'm really just trying to stay in the flow, all right? I'm trying to stay in the spirit and keep it moving. And I'm just really thankful that the Alderman has given us an opportunity to come out tonight and talk to us about the activities that we're doing on the west side of Chicago. And Alderman, we want to talk to you specifically about a few things that's going on out here and what you've been doing and what you plan to do in the 28th Ward.
Okay.
Now, we do know that you've been an alderman in the 28th Ward for how long?
Right, just actually 8 years, so 2 terms.
8 years.
Yes.
Now, in those 8 years, what has been your passion?
A couple things. My passion has really been around helping to rebuild the community. I think that we have not had the types of investments in our community that we've seen in other communities across the city. Mm-hmm. So my primary goal over these last 8 years has been really to get our investment levels up, fix our streets, bring new capital improvements, our lights, our schools, our libraries, all of the stuff, the infrastructure that you need for a successful community. So that's been the primary focus of my, term in office. Secondly, I think that in order to have a successful community, you've got to have, as I said, the infrastructure, but we also have to be investing in people as well.
Okay.
And when I say investing in people, I mean investing in training, investing in job creation, investing in the whole person, not just on the superficial level. And I look at that as partially the work that we've done with our churches in the community, with our social service agencies, and another aspect of working and helping on the mental health front. People talked about a lot of closed facilities across the city when in fact our community, we gained facilities. Not only do we have a mental health facility by the city, we have a state facility in Bobby E. Wright, and then we were able to open the triage center with Bobby E. Wright and HSI over in West Garfield Park. So these are all been positive things that we've been working on or working toward to help build the total man in the city of Chicago on the west side.
So, but I'm gonna ask you a few questions tonight because if I'm not mistaken, we're in the election season. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
And I understand that you're running again.
I am running again. Yes, I am.
So now, what is your platform this time that you would like to fulfill this next 4 years?
We're still continuing on our investments. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that we still have some work to do. I can tell you that we are better off when I started than where we are today. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying that we still have work to do in that regard. We're still focusing on our young people, focusing on our children. I really believe that if we are going to have some success in our community, our youth must be successful. Okay. And the best way that they can be successful is to be educated so that they can make some different decisions in life than other people have and give them the skill, knowledge, and ability to further themselves and then go out and come back. See, a lot of times people say, man, I just want to get out of here. But if everybody leave, if all the good go, what's left?
Absolutely.
So we want to encourage people. We want you to go get that good career, do what you want to do. You don't have to go to college if it's trade school or whatever, but come back to the neighborhood.
Yeah, and reinvest.
Exactly. Yeah, come back to the neighborhood because that youngster that was you, in 10 years needs to see somebody getting up going to work in the morning.
Right.
He needs to see somebody taking his child to the park. He needs to see somebody holding his wife's hand. Because those are the things that are going to help make our community stronger and community better is our families and everybody's working together and getting the family structure and the family unit back on point.
Listen, you're watching Fathers Who Care. Of course, our guest this evening is none other than Alderman Jason C. Ervin, the Alderman and Committeeman, correct?
Yes, I am.
Of the 28th Ward. And we're talking tonight about what's going on in the community, what can we do to continue to empower our community. And so we're fortunate enough to have Alderman with us tonight, and we just wanted to keep it moving, and we wanted to keep on talking and sharing information that you can use as you continue to move forward to make some differences in the community. We believe that everything, change comes about. Change is inevitable. Change is going to happen whether you like it or not. And we like building on change.
Oh, yes.
And so we know in order to build on change, we have to be active. So how can we get more people more civically involved in helping to come back to empowering their community?
Really?
You following me?
I follow where you're going.
Right.
I think that, and this is the thing, we find a lot of people come here to the community. They may have moved to Bellwood, Naperville, Plainfield, Maywood, Broadview. They moved out, but they still come back. And generally, they come back for a couple things. One, they come back to the barber shop or to the beauty shop. Secondly, a lot of them come back to go to church. And so, with that being said, I think that working with our faith-based community is key to helping to rebuild our community, because they moved out, thought something was different. And in fact, you couldn't pay me to move to the suburbs. Because everything that's going on, taxes are higher out there. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be right here in the heart of the city, because everybody else is moving back into the city. Jobs are moving into the city. People aren't moving out; they're moving in, because people want to be connected to what's happening in the civic and to all of the arts and the culture of our city. So we want to encourage these young people, and we're going to do that by investing in new housing. One of the programs that we have going is upon our affordable housing, is that we're seeing a lot of development in the eastern portion of the west side of Chicago. I'm talking around like Halsted, Ashland, Racine, Loomis. A lot of development over there.
A major.
Yes. And so
but isn't that your ward?
Yes, it is. And so what we're doing is said, hey, we know that whenever anybody needs to make a zoning change, that they have to, if there's over 20 units, over 30 units, they have 20 units, they have to set aside units for affordable housing.
Right.
So what we were able to do was say, hey, we want you to set aside those units of affordable housing on site, but we also want you to set aside some units of affordable housing off site. And where is off site? Off site is East and West Garfield Park and areas of Austin, where we can begin to do some building of affordable single family and 2-flat residences, so that we can draw that individual that is working, that comes into the city, that's still a part of the fabric of the community, but doesn't necessarily lay his or her head here on a nightly basis. So we want to draw people back in the community. We have to do it with nice housing, and also, as I talked about, the schools. Again, everybody wants their child to go to what they believe to be a good school.
Okay.
And so we've seen improvements in the school. And I'll go back to my example in West Garfield Park. Since we've invested in science, technology, engineering, and math, all of the schools in West Garfield in the 28th Ward are STEM schools, and they have the investment that they need to help these young people get to the next level. So we want to have all of these things in order for a parent to say, hey, I want to come back to the neighborhood. I want my child to be here. And the final piece of that leg of that stool is safety.
Okay.
And so we're definitely interested in continuing our fight in the realm of public safety.
So, Alderman, we got a call.
Okay.
And so what we'll do is we'll entertain this call, after which we're going to come back and we want to talk specifically about how you feel. You was talking about schools, you're talking about public safety and infrastructure. So let's stay within that conversation, all right? And we'll come back and we'll talk specifically about your concerns with schools closing, and local school councils and involvement thereof. Caller, you on there? Your comment or question, please.
Yes. Hello? Can you hear me?
You're on the air.
Okay. I wanted to ask the Alderman, what are you doing specifically about, you're talking about the different schools and the different STEM schools and whatnot, but what are you doing about the different public schools that have taken away a lot of the different after-school programs and the programs that was keeping our children off the streets? And then, when you get off the streets, there's nothing going on in the neighborhoods to bring people back so that they'll have something positive for their children to do. What are you doing about that?
Thank you for that. Thank you
so much for the question.
Thank you for that question. There are a couple of things that we're working on as a community, and also with our park district. I think that one of the biggest challenges is that you go out to some communities. Say, let's use Naperville as an example.
But also, don't forget to refer back to what you was doing.
But we look at our programs around football, baseball, basketball. So helping our young people, like we're working with the Garfield Park Little League, and bringing some of those activities back, because she's right. The same activities that I saw as a child, the kids do not have today. I don't see the Boy Scout troops that existed back in the day.
Right.
As they said, like the social center things that existed back in the day. Because our focus at the school has been I think, too focused on academics and not necessarily focusing on the whole child.
Right.
Meaning that, here's a case in point. I actually sat on the local school council at Tilton Elementary School, I pushed for kids to have extra periods of recess. Why? You cannot tell me that Johnny's going to sit in math class for not only one period, but 2 periods, right? And then go to reading for another 2 periods. And they say, well, the kids need to blow off some steam. Now, you and I know when we were in school, you were a little older than me, but when we were in school, we had, recess, you had lunch, you had some time to burn off. And now we've been
Which is important.
It is definitely important. We've been so hyper-focused on trying. He got to learn this, he got to learn that. Well, you can't put 10 pounds of potatoes in a 6-pound bag.
That's good.
You got to relax. The child has the ability to relax himself, to learn social skills and do some other things, and it's not all academic. So I think that's one failure that we have made by pushing test scores, pushing all of these things on kids, and at the same time not giving them a chance to just be kids.
So if you could just incorporate additional activities for people outside of school or in school.
But I think the school is key, though. The school can be the focal point of the community.
Okay.
And this is another thing that bothers me, in a sense that, all of our children, if they live in a certain area of school, in the area, this is how we build community. If you got 15 kids, and only 3 of them go.
They've been bust out.
They mingle and learn with one another in the kids. And if your children are doing different things, the parents will never get together, because the parents are following the kids. And so we have to really rethink, look at education and how we can make the school the focal point of our community. Doing that, I think we create a whole lot of synergy around the schools. One thing that we have done, every school in my ward got new playground equipment. We put tennis courts at Tilton. We got a volleyball court over at Spencer. We try to do something different, because we need to expose our children to something other than basketball, other than football. We have even a little soccer field at some of the schools. So it's trying to and expand our children's minds, expand their thinking, give them some new things and some new possibilities and opportunities, so that they can what other communities see, not just in Chicago, but all across the world. Because they're not just competing with a kid from Peoria, now they're competing with a kid from Paris, across the water. So we have to make them globally sensitive, globally accessible. As they say, think globally but act locally. And that's what we want our children to think about.
So now you heard some of the comments of the Alderman in relationship to activities for the young folks, which we think is extremely important.
Yes, it is.
Because if young folks don't have something to engage themselves in and to burn out that energy, they're going to find other avenues to do it. So I agree with you 100% on that. But let's get back to this here. Caller, for those who are watching right now, again, we have Alderman Jason Ervin, Alderman and Committeeman Jason Ervin of the 28th Ward, and we are calling, he's on the show now, requesting your calls, and how can we improve the activities and civic engagement of folks in the community. So let's talk about what can we do to empower each other. First, let's ask this question. How much is the city's budget?
City's budget, all funds, come to almost $10 billion.
$10 billion.
$10 billion would it be? Now between $9 and $10 billion.
Okay. Now, how many people actually in the city now?
Residents in the city?
Yeah.
Approximately 2.4 million residents.
2.4.
Right.
Now, let's go into, we was talking specifically about this, what's going on in the community. What, in your opinion, is the state of the West Side? And particularly, let's focus in your area.
Okay, the state of the West Side is improving. I would say the state of the West Side is improving. One of our biggest challenges, though, and the thing that will thwart our growth, are issues around public safety.
Okay,
If we were able to like get a serious handle and fix public safety related issues, this community would take off like a rocket. And I'm gonna tell you why. We are the center of my ward is right at Holman and Madison. From Holman and Madison, you can get to O'Hare in 30 minutes. You can get to Midway in 20 minutes. You can get downtown in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. If they ever fix the downtown, getting down around Van Buren and stuff, they ever fix that. So the West Side of Chicago is strategically centered, not just in Chicago, but in this entire region of northeastern Illinois. The West Side of Chicago. So again, it is strategically placed. And the biggest thing that I hear about and the calls that I get in my office all center around issues of public safety. We made great improvements on improving the service related aspect, but the real issue that most residents are concerned about outside of property taxes is their safety. And so that is a key component, I believe, that we have to work on. One of the things that we've been working on and championing is this issue around criminal loitering. Again, the calls that we get, not about who got shot, but about I can't walk down the street to go to the corner. I go to the bus stop and there's 7, 8 people in the bus stop, 5 of them selling loose cigarettes, 3 of them just hanging out. These are the types of issues that are affecting people's quality of life. And I can understand that trying to attract new people, trying to attract investment is difficult under those circumstances.
But don't you have some legislation that you introduced in relationship to loitering, which we in turn believe that is in association with a deleterious impact site?
That is correct, and we are still pushing. We got 3 pieces of legislation. We passed one of those 3 pieces of legislation. We will be looking to pass the other pieces of legislation. But just as I'm fighting to pass it, I got folks that don't live in our community fighting against it. And that's unfortunate because
so what can the community do? Because in all honesty, the community need that.
Yes.
I mean, now I'm not saying folks shouldn't have a chance to congregate and what have you.
That is correct.
I'm not implying that.
Exactly.
But I'm talking about illegal loitering.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about criminal related loitering. We're talking about people out selling drugs. We're talking about people out here prostituting. We're talking about folks out here with this foolishness that you and I and everybody that looks at this knows is not what a healthy community should be involved with and sustaining.
So what can folks who want to make their community safer, what can they do to support this initiative?
So here's what we have been doing.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Thing number 1.
Right.
At our last election, we moved forward on a loitering referendum.
Statewide or citywide?
This was only in our ward because we want to build support for this particular issue across the city.
So you're saying that that's on the ballot?
We put it on the ballot in November, passed with 85%. Because here's the thing, we have to show everybody else that we are serious and would like to see some change around this issue. And so that's why it was incumbent upon us to put this on the ballot so that people would see it, people would understand it. We talk to people about it. Again, we don't want the police just going out here, hitting folks upside the head, doing that type of stuff. That's not what this is about. This is about trying to increase and enhance the quality of life for those hard-working residents that live in our community that just want some peace. Folks tired of coming home, people sitting on their porch, people sitting on their cars, leaning on their fence, doing all these types of things. They don't do it in front of their house, but they want to come in front of your house and do it.
And we think that's not fair.
It isn't fair.
So what can residents who are concerned about, see, most important, I think, education.
Yes.
So once folks are educated about what it is, then they can complain about what it is. Now, I can understand folks may be up in arms when they don't know. But now you know, all right?
Right.
So what can they do to help bring safety back, bring stability back, bring peace back, and bring a wholesomeness back into the community?
A couple things that we're going to do. Number one, reach out to your member of your state legislature.
Okay.
Now, in the 28th ward, we have 3 state representatives and 2 state senators.
Right.
Our state representatives are Art Turner, LaShawn Ford, and Melissa Conyers Ervin, who happens also as my wife. She also has a bill in Springfield dealing with this very issue. We need our residents to call and say, hey, we want to support Representative Conyers Ervin's bill as relates to criminal loitering. We also need to reach out to our state senators, who are Patricia Van Pelt and State Senator Kimberly Lyford. Kimberly Lyford actually is now the majority leader. She's the number 2 person in the Illinois State Senate, number 2. And we also have in Art Turner, he's the number 3 person in the Illinois House. So we've got good people in place to help us move these things. We just as a community, and we've talked to them, showing them, hey, here's what people are saying. I understand the ACLU may have some problems, but the ACLU, I guarantee you, if this was happening in their community, it'd be a different conversation.
Well, thank you for that comment. Let's get you another call in,
Go ahead.
Alderman. Thank you so much for calling. Your comment and question, please. Our guest this evening is Alderman Ervin.
Okay, Alderman Ervin, I have another question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
My question to you, okay, you're talking about the different loitering in the neighborhoods, but what happens when you have loitering in the neighborhood just on your block, where you have areas where, young gangbangers are hanging in front of the house and you call in the police, and what do you do if nothing is being done about you reporting the loitering? And then when stuff like that happens, it's hard to even support a bill that says that this bill is going to help us out when we see the police don't even help us out when we complain about the loitering in the neighborhood. Tell me, what do you think about that?
Yes,
I'll tell you exactly what I think. I live in the 3300 block of Jackson Boulevard, and right behind my house in the 3300 block of Van Buren, well, a block and a half over, is we have a place where we find a lot of people hanging out, loitering, and in fact, they're selling cannabis. The biggest... Marijuana.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that has changed, while we have decriminalized marijuana, it has caused an explosion of drug sales on the west side of Chicago. It's caused an explosion of that. Here's one of the biggest challenges. On the way that the law states right now, you're calling 911. If that officer doesn't see somebody handing a package to somebody, or somebody that's clearly high or clearly on drugs or clearly drunk, the law gives them very limited ability to do anything. So what I'm saying is that they're only under the current law, if it is not at a certain location, there is nothing the police department can do in relation to loitering unless they see an illegal act occurring on site.
And people identify these folks who are doing this illegal activity specifically.
Oh yes, I mean, so you have to see that person do something, then you can take action. The mere fact of them standing there, we know what's going on. You can't even tell them to move along.
Unless you have what?
Under the current statute, unless it's at one location that they documented over 6 months of activity to do that. In the 11th district, mind you, the 11th district, there are only 10 of these locations in the entire district where you can enforce criminal loitering aspects. And that is just wrong, and it's against our community. What I was proposing was that, hey, we don't need, because if you are here today and move over a block, you can't do it here, but a block over here you can.
Right.
So what's so special about this place that's not special about this place?
Absolutely.
And again, I guarantee you that if this problem was in other communities, it would get a different treatment and a different response. So we're going to continue pushing on this criminal loitering, because I know that I want my daughter to be able to ride her big wheel and her bike down the street just like everybody else wants their children to be able to do.
So you heard it from the Alderman, you heard it here on Fathers Who Care, and we want to encourage those who are watching tonight to meet us tomorrow at the Forest Park Public Library at 7555 West Jackson, where we'll be doing a Black History program mentoring young people. It'll be a lot of things going on for young entrepreneurs and creative writing people and all that kind of good stuff. And also we want to encourage those who are interested in some employment and training to give us a call at Fathers Who Care, and we'll give you the number to the Safer Foundation, Mount Sinai. They got some nice things going on with auto mechanics and
it's giving people career opportunities, a trade opportunity.
Trade opportunity.
So, and to the young lady that just called us, please let's work on this, because we will not, as a community, be able to move forward until we can allow our police department to work within reason. We're not asking folks to get ignorant about this, but within reason,
be informed
to enforce the laws of the state of Illinois.
We got one more caller. Now I want you to do me a favor. Let's get this last caller so we can roll out, because we got some other things coming up in the show. Caller, give me a quick comment.
Hello, Walter.
Yes.
Are you all aware that Senator Lightfoot had a town hall meeting on marijuana? You know,
yes, we're aware.
Marijuana.
Yes, ma'am.
Getting ready to legalize marijuana, and a coalition for a safer Illinois support Illinois SB 316-HB 2353. Marijuana legalization will be safe. It is a safer public policy. It tells you when they legalize it how safety is going to be, and it won't be like the boy said it on the street, putting a size in it.
And I sincerely hope that is the case, and as long as the state of Illinois doesn't tax it to a point where it creates that black market. That's why we have people out here selling loose cigarettes, right? Because the taxes are so high.
Well, we want you. Thank you, Mary, for the call, and thank you all for the comments. And yes, that's Senate Bill 316 and Senate Bill 2353 on the legalization of marijuana for recreational use as opposed to municipal use. The authors of that bill are Senator Stearns and Senator Representative Cassidy. Alderman, we're saying to you, we know that we have a dispensary right there on Western and Ogden.
Yes.
And we're saying to you, if any more dispensaries are coming to the community, please let's make sure that we have some consciousness and some conversation about what about those folks who have been previously incarcerated.
Yes.
Something happened for them, and making sure that those resources that come from the sales of this marijuana, in the event this thing get legalized, which I think it will, in the event that happens, making sure that those resources come back into your ward.
I know that the legislation, as it is calling for some expungement, is calling for a lot of things for people who have
minority involvement.
Yes, and we got to have some minority involvement in this in order for it to go. And I know members of the Legislative Black Caucus in Springfield are pushing for those issues on the benefit of our community.
Absolutely. So we encourage you all to just stay informed, and if you need additional information, can I give them your office number, please?
Yes, my office can be reached at area code 773-533-0900. Once again, Alderman Jason Ervin, 28th Ward. Thank you.
Listen, thank you so very much for tuning in. I'm going to say this to you, and listen to me closely. You have a right to vote. Vote. Please vote while you can. Vote your consciousness. Vote what's best for your community, and vote so that we can continue to empower our young folks.
And you can also vote for me, Jason Ervin. My punch number 61, Alderman of the 28th Ward. Thank you.
Did you say what now?
61. 30. I'm running for re-election. 61 is my number, 28th Ward.
Oh, okay. Well, you heard it here first, all right? So the alderman said that he's running for a re-election, and we're saying you please make sure your vote counts and use the vote. I mean, a vote is a terrible thing to waste. Yes, God bless you. God keep you. We'll talk to you on the other side, and thanks again for the prayers, for all the resolutions, all the calls. We really appreciate it. The family appreciate you. We're going through the moment, but we're going to be all right because our God is good. Yes, so we thank you so much, and good night, and we'll see you later. Peace.